On my wedding day, my fiancé and my younger sister Rachel were caught doing the dirty in the private lounge. I immediately became a laughingstock until my childhood friend Jason Law publicly proposed to me, defending my honor. After we got married, he was the perfect husband, except for his performance in the bedroom. It was like his heart was never in it. I only managed to get pregnant after going for IVF this year. After that, he became even more protective of me. I once believed he was my sanctuary until I overheard his conversation with his friend. "You're ruthless, Jason. Nina's so good to you. How could you swap out her egg with Rachel's just because Rachel is too afraid of the pain to give birth? The baby's due in 2 months. What do you plan to do then?" Jason was silent for a bit, then he sighed. "I'll give Rachel the baby once it's born. It's one of her greatest wishes, after all. As for Nina, I'll tell her the baby died. I'll make it up to her by staying with her for the rest of her life." So that was how it was. He only protected me so gently for her sake. I turned around and immediately made a surgery appointment. I was throwing away this filthy baby and this false marriage. "Aren't you worried Nina will discover the truth?" Jason Law was quiet for a moment before saying, "She won't find out." "Are you sure?" "She trusts me." His tone was certain. "She won't suspect a thing if I'm the one telling her." After another short silence, his friend said, "As long as you don't regret it." Jason chuckled lightly. "I won't." So that was how it was. I stood outside the door, my nails digging into my flesh. It hurt so much, but I was going numb. I had only come here to bring him some clothes. It was getting cold, and I was worried he was not wearing enough layers. Now, however, I felt like my heart was being sliced open. A cold wind blew through my chest. I stumbled home, too exhausted to even turn on the lights. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the couch, curled up and shivering. I felt nauseous and dizzy. Tears spilled from my eyes soundlessly, but I did not have the energy to wipe them away. The doorknob clicked. He was back. I heard the sound of his leather shoes approaching. He walked up to the couch and bent down slightly, his voice gentle and worried. "Why didn't you turn on the lights? The maid said you haven't eaten. Are you feeling sick again?" He reached out to push the hair out of my face, his eyes filled with concern. "Nina, what's the matter?" He then crouched down, putting his hand over mine. His tone was gentle. "If you don't eat, it's bad for the baby." I looked straight into his tender gaze. So love could be entirely an act. For years ago, my fiancé and my younger sister were caught having an affair at my wedding. My parents forced me to hand over my fiancé, saying family protected each other. They could not afford to lose face in public, so they declared that Rachel Gordon was the bride that day. Back then, Jason had publicly proposed to me. At the time, I thought he was my savior. After we got married, I stood behind him and silently supported him the whole time. I used my market acumen to help him invest and expand his business. Within a few short years, his company went from a nameless startup to one of the rising stars in the investment industry. When we went for IVF to conceive this year, everything seemed to be perfect. He hugged me and said this baby was the gift he had been looking forward to for years. His smile was so tender I could almost drown in it. Turned out it was just another trick. He was not the only one who could act. I blinked and curved my lips into a smile. "I'm fine. I'm just a little tired." My voice was soft and slightly tired, as though nothing was amiss. He heaved a sigh of relief and comforted me gently. "Okay, sleep early tonight. Why not? I could play this game before the surgery." After that, the curtains would fall on this charade. The next morning, Jason took me to a prenatal checkup. He asked questions about every little detail. Even the doctor laughed and praised him. "You have a great husband. Not many men are this responsible these days." Jason held my hand, his gaze gentle. "I've been looking forward to this baby forever. Of course, I'll take good care of them." When we walked out of the consultation room, we bumped into my sister Rachel. She wore a loose-fitting dress, and a smug look flashed across her eyes when she saw us. I smirked inwardly when I saw her round belly. No wonder she said she had coincidentally fallen pregnant at the same time as me. She had been waiting for me the entire time. She approached me with a grin and a light-hearted tone. "When are you due, Nina?" She even held out her hand to touch my stomach. My gaze cold, I smacked her hand aside. "What was that for?" Anger flashed across Rachel's face. Before she could continue, however, I lowered my head and held my stomach, saying weakly, "My stomach kinda hurts." Her words caught in her throat, and her expression instantly stiffened. Jason immediately held my arm, his tone nervous. "Was it because the checkup took too long? Do you want to go back and rest?" His tone was filled with concern, but I could see that his gaze stayed on Rachel, wordlessly consoling her. I lowered my lashes, saying softly, "I'll head to the washroom." He frowned and tried to follow me, but I waved him aside. "No need. Wait for me here." He hesitated but eventually nodded. "All right, be careful." I went into the washroom, but the moment I closed the door, I saw him hurry off. As I thought, he had gone to comfort Rachel. I followed him sneakily, standing a short distance away as I watched him soothe her patiently. Rachel frowned and pouted. Did you fall for her or something? She was so rude to me, but you didn't even defend me. Tell me honestly, did you feel bad for her? Jason sighed helplessly. I did it for the baby. After all, she's... Without finishing that sentence, he took a beautiful jewelry box from his pocket and pulled out a brand new bracelet from inside. His tone was gentle as he put it on her wrist. This is the bracelet you wanted last time. I got it for you. Rachel's expression softened. She smirked and said smugly, I earned a ton on the stock you recommended last time. Do you have any other recommendations? I stood rooted to the spot, scoffing at the scene unfolding before me. Jason was using everything I gave him to win her heart. I turned around and left, then took out my phone and made a call. Hello? I want to confirm my appointment tomorrow. All right, I'll be there on time. The familiar footsteps behind me came to a sudden stop. Tomorrow? Jason sounded confused. Where are you going tomorrow? I turned around and met his gaze with a smile. I made an appointment for a pregnancy photo shoot. Let's take some family photos as keepsakes. His expression stiffened, and he hesitated. I purposely raised a brow, my tone light. What's the matter? You don't want to go with me? He could not quite meet my gaze. No, I'm just worried you'll be too tired. Besides, I have a meeting tomorrow at work. How about another day? I looked at him and chuckled, my tone soft and considerate. It's fine. Your work comes first. I can go alone. He seemed to heave a sigh of relief. He rubbed my head with a smile, his tone indulgent. What would I do without such a wonderful wife like you? On the day of the surgery, Jason suddenly pulled out a small bracelet and put it on my wrist before leaving for work. This is for you. His tone was gentle as usual. I looked down at it. It was the free gift that came with the bracelet he bought for Rachel. My fingers curled into fists slightly, but I looked up at him with a smile. Thanks. I love it. His lips curved as he rubbed my hair, saying softly, You're always so sweet, Nina. Before going for the surgery, I decided to drop by my maiden home to visit my parents. Just as I was about to head inside, however, I heard the voices inside clearly. Rachel was complaining with a pout. Why is Nina always so arrogant? She even hit my hand yesterday. My mother comforted her softly. Just tolerate that for now, all right? We eventually gave you her fiancé when you wanted him, didn't we? This time as well. You just need to be patient. My father sighed helplessly. Don't make a fuss, okay? You finally married the guy you wanted. If your in-laws find out how you're getting this baby, they'll get mad again, and Jason will be in trouble. Jason hastily comforted her, his tone gentle but determined. Don't worry, Rachel. I brought the prenatal checkup from yesterday. Everything's fine. We just need to wait until the baby is born. He paused and continued. Mom and Dad, you don't have to worry about me either. I'll do anything for Rachel. My fingertips were cold. All the blood in my body froze over. So they all knew. So this was all part of their plan. So I was nothing more than their pawn from the very start. Not long later, the butler brought over some tea. Jason opened the door to take the cups, but his eyes locked onto something on the floor. There were pearls scattered across the doorway, and a bracelet lay broken. It was the one he had put on my wrist. He immediately went pale, forgetting to breathe. He rushed to the door and looked around, his gaze panicked. After that, he blew up my phone. The moment the call went through, he said anxiously, Nina, where are you? I can explain. I did not reply. His voice grew even more panicked. Nina, what happened? Where are you? Just then, he heard a nurse saying on the other side, Nina Gordon, please sign this agreement before the surgery. Jason felt like he was being choked. His breath caught, and he instantly lost it. A surgery? Where are you? What surgery? He practically roared into the phone, his voice unprecedentedly panicked. I looked at the screen calmly, drawing my finger across it lightly. I hung up, then turned off my phone. I sat on the hospital bed, my hands rubbing the sheets subconsciously. My best friend Anna was making some arrangements over the phone. A few seconds later, she ended the call and looked at me. Everything's in place. Her tone was steady as ever. It's all according to plan. I nodded calmly. Good. The doctor came into my room, holding my chart. His expression was solemn. Miss Gordon, let me check again before the surgery. He flipped through my chart and looked at me solemnly. The baby is quite far along, so we'll have to induce labor. This could affect your future. Are you sure? I did not hesitate for even a second. I'm sure. He paused before asking, Do you have any family with you? Family? I scoffed. The family who claimed to love me and care for me were all lying to me, planning to give away the baby once it was born. I looked up slowly and told the doctor in a frighteningly calm voice, "I don't have any family. They're all dead." The doctor glanced at me. He wanted to say something, but then he sighed and nodded at the nurse. "Prepare the operation theater." The door closed slowly, and the world went silent. The only sound left was the beep of the ECG. This was the first decision I made for myself. It was fine. My life would become even better without them. After the surgery, back in my room, I heard Anna's voice in my ear before I was even fully awake. Jason kept calling me. I gave him a different address, but he'll find out soon. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was Anna's worried gaze. Her tone was careful. "How do you feel?" I paused and instinctively touched my stomach. It was flat. My fingers paused on the empty belly, as though confirming something or searching for something. Anna hesitated when she saw my movements and asked cautiously, "Do you regret it?" I did not reply, my fingers slowly digging into my palms until it began to hurt. Regret? Never. All I felt was hatred. I hated them for tricking me, and hated myself for taking this long to notice. Fortunately, it was not too late. I did not let them get their way. I looked up with a cold smile. I don't regret it at all. I then reached for the documents I had prepared on my bedside table. My voice was hoarse but clear. I already signed them. Anna took the papers and read through them, her gaze serious. "Divorce papers?" I nodded slightly. "Send them out right away." She did not ask any more questions. "All right." She then paused before continuing. "The stocks you invested in with my account have made it big. I'll transfer the money back to you right now." I lowered my gaze, my tone calm. "All right." After a second, I chuckled, my gaze ice cold. "Don't let them know. I'll make them pay, slowly, once I recover." The next day, I heard panicked footsteps at the door. I closed my eyes and let out a breath, my fingers digging into the sheets. They found me after all. The door flew open, Jason taking the lead. When he saw me in the hospital bed, all the blood drained from his face. There was no hiding the panic in his eyes. "Nina, how could you be so rash?" "You misunderstood, I can explain." He ran toward me, his tone rushed. Jason froze inches from my bed. His chest heaved, his immaculate tie askew, and a sheen of cold sweat clung to his forehead. He reached a trembling hand out to me, his eyes darting frantically from my face to the perfectly flat silhouette of the blanket over my stomach. "Nina," his voice cracked, a pathetic, reedy sound I had never heard from him before. "Nina, please tell me this is a joke. Tell me the baby is fine. Tell me you didn't." "Didn't what, Jason?" I interrupted. My voice, so calm it felt detached from my own body. "Didn't remove the parasite you planted in me?" He recoiled, as if I had slapped him. "Parasite? Nina, that's our child. How could you?" "I was just the conversation you heard. You misunderstood. I was just saying that to placate Rachel." "Placate Rachel." I tasted the words, finding them as bitter and hollow as my 4-year marriage. I sat up slightly, ignoring the dull ache in my abdomen. "You were placating her by swapping my egg for hers during the IVF? By bribing Dr. Evans to implant her fertilized embryo into my womb, so she wouldn't have to suffer the pain of childbirth? By planning to tell me my baby died, so you could hand it over to her?" Jason's legs gave out. He fell to his knees beside the hospital bed, his fingers gripping the pristine white sheets. How did you? You're not as smart as you think you are, Jason. You never were." Before he could formulate another lie, the door to the hospital room was thrown open again. This time, it was my sister, Rachel, flanked by my pale-faced parents. Rachel was still wearing her loose maternity dress, but the moment she saw Jason on the floor and my flat stomach, the illusion of her sweet, pregnant glow shattered entirely. "Where is it?" Rachel shrieked, her voice shrill enough to make the ECG machine seem quiet. She rushed forward, grabbing the foot of my bed. "Nina, what did you do to my baby?" I looked at her, my gaze drifting to the prosthetic bump hidden beneath her designer silk dress. "Your baby? I thought you were 6 months pregnant, Rachel. Everyone at the country club thinks you're expecting." Rachel's face twisted in unfiltered rage. She dropped the act completely, slamming her hands on the mattress. "You bitch. You knew. That was my flesh and blood in there. Jason, and I made that embryo. You had no right." "I had every right," I said, my voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "It was my body. My womb. You violated me. All of you." I shifted my eyes to my parents, who were lingering near the door, trembling like cowards. "And you knew. You sold me out again, just like you did at my wedding." My mother covered her mouth, sobbing into her hands. "Nina, please. Rachel has a weak constitution. She couldn't handle labor. You're the older sister. You've always been so strong. We thought if you just gave birth, we'd tell you it was a stillborn and you and Jason could try again later." "Try again later." A dark, humorless laugh escaped my throat. The sheer audacity of their entitlement was breathtaking. You rented out my womb without my consent to serve the daughter you actually love. And you, Jason, I looked down at the man kneeling on the floor. You played the perfect, loving husband. You kissed my stomach every night. Were you kissing me, or were you kissing her? Jason reached for my hand, tears streaming down his face. Nina, I love you. I swear to God, I love you. Rachel just wanted a child, and your parents pressured me. I didn't want to lose you. I thought this was the only way to keep the peace and keep you by my side. Sign the papers, Jason, I said, pulling my hand away in disgust. I pointed to the manila envelope resting on the bedside table. Anna sent them over this morning. Divorce. You walk away with what you had before we married, which is nothing. I take back every cent of my capital. No. Jason shook his head frantically. I'm not signing anything. I won't lose you. We can fix this. There is no we anymore. I pressed the call button on my remote. Within seconds, 2 burly hospital security guards, courtesy of Anna's generous bribes, stepped into the room. Remove them, I told the guards, leaning back against the pillows. Nina, you killed my child. I'll kill you. Rachel lunged at me, but one of the guards caught her by the waist, dragging her backward as she kicked and screamed. My parents rushed to help her, their faces pale with panic. Jason stood up slowly, wiping his face. His sorrow was already calcifying into something darker, something cornered and vicious. You'll regret this, Nina. You're emotional right now. But you need me. You're nothing without the life I gave you. I smiled. It was a cold, razor-sharp thing. We'll see about that. I stayed in the hospital for 3 more days to recover. Anna barely left my side. She handled my phone, filtering the hundreds of frantic calls and texts from Jason, my parents, and eventually, the media. He's refusing to sign the divorce papers, Anna reported on the second afternoon, peeling an apple for me. His lawyer sent a counterproposal. He wants half your premarital assets, claiming he supported you emotionally during your trauma, and he's threatening to sue you for emotional distress over the abortion. Of course he is, I murmured, watching the city's skyline through the window. He's terrified. Without me, his investment firm is an empty shell. He's the face, but I'm the brain. When Jason and I married, I had stepped back from the public eye. I fed him the market analyses, the algorithms I developed, and the insider projections that made his firm, Vanguard Holdings, a darling of Wall Street. He played the charismatic CEO, while I operated as a ghost. He actually believed his own hype now. He believed he was a genius. Anna, I said, turning to look at her. It's time to take off the training wheels. Let Vanguard Holdings ride on its own. Anna's eyes gleamed with predatory excitement. I've already initiated the withdrawal. All your proprietary software licenses have been revoked as of midnight tonight. Your hidden capital in his flagship fund? Pulled. Good. Now, we lay the bait. Over the next month, I moved into a high-security penthouse Anna owned. I ignored my family entirely. Jason tried ambushing me twice, but my private security handled him effortlessly. Left to his own devices, the cracks in Vanguard Holdings began to show. Without my predictive models, Jason's trades were erratic. He lost 15% of his clients' portfolios in 3 weeks. Panic was setting in. I knew Rachel. I knew her greed. She was addicted to the high society lifestyle she believed she deserved, a lifestyle currently funded by Jason and my parents. Working through a proxy, a shell corporation based in the Caymans, I quietly orchestrated a whisper campaign about a rising tech biomedical stock, Ethelfarm. It was an absolute garbage company, practically bankrupt, but on paper, with some creative PR, it looked like the next Amazon. I had Anna leak the insider tip to a socialite who played tennis with Rachel. It didn't take long. 2 weeks later, Anna walked into my home office, dropping a thick dossier on my desk. They bit, she said, pouring herself a glass of wine. And they bit hard. Rachel begged Jason to invest. When Jason hesitated because Vanguard is bleeding cash, Rachel went to your parents. They remortgaged their estate and gave Rachel $5 million to put into Ethelfarm. Then Jason, desperate for a win to save his firm's reputation, leveraged Vanguard's remaining liquid assets, about $40 million, into the stock. I stared at the numbers on the page. It was almost too easy. They were so blinded by their own arrogance, so used to everything falling into their laps, that they didn't even do basic due diligence. When does the quarterly earnings report for Ethelfarm come out? I asked. Tomorrow morning, Anna grinned. And the SEC is launching an investigation into them for fraudulent clinical trials at the exact same time. The stock is going to zero, Nina. Jason and your family are going to be wiped out by lunch. Perfect, I whispered. But financial ruin isn't enough. They committed a crime. It's time to make them bleed in public. The next morning, I dressed meticulously. I chose a sharp, tailored black suit, my hair pulled back into a severe knot. I looked like a widow going to war. At 9 a.m., the stock market opened. At 9:15 a.m., the SEC announced their probe into Ethel Farm. At 9:30 a.m., the stock lost 80% of its value. By 10 a.m., trading was halted. As Vanguard Holdings was facing massive margin calls and my parents were realizing they had just lost their ancestral home, I was walking into the local police precinct with my lawyer and a mountain of evidence. "I'm here to report a medical battery, conspiracy, and fraud," I told the lead detective, sliding a thumb drive across the metal table. On that drive were the audio recordings I had captured on my phone outside Jason's study, financial records showing Jason's massive bribes to Dr. Evans at the fertility clinic, and a detailed paper trail of how they illegally harvested and swapped genetic material without my consent. By noon, it was a media circus. Wall Street prodigy Jason Law accused of sickening fertility fraud involving sister-in-law. The headline flashed across the screens in Times Square. My phone vibrated endlessly, but I didn't look at it. I sat in a sleek black SUV parked across the street from Vanguard Holdings, sipping a black coffee. "Look," Anna murmured from the driver's seat. Down below, the glass doors of the skyscraper burst open. Jason stumbled out, flanked by frantic PR handlers. His tie was gone, his shirt unbuttoned, his face a mask of utter devastation. Reporters swarmed him like vultures, shoving microphones in his face. "Mr. Law, is it true you swapped your wife's egg with her sister's?" "Mr. Law, Vanguard is reportedly facing insolvency after today's crash. Are you filing for bankruptcy?" "Jason, did you really plan to fake your own child's death?" Jason pushed through them, looking wildly around the street. For a brief second, his eyes met the tinted windows of my SUV. He couldn't see me, but he knew. He felt it. I rolled the window down just an inch, letting him catch a glimpse of my face. His knees buckled. A photographer caught the exact moment he collapsed onto the pavement, weeping, surrounded by the flashing bulbs of his own destruction. I rolled the window up. "Drive," I told Anna. The fallout was biblical. With Vanguard's assets frozen and the firm utterly bankrupted by the Ethel Farm crash, Jason's clients filed a class action lawsuit. The SEC permanently revoked his trading licenses. He was a pariah. The police arrested Dr. Evans that evening. Facing 20 years in federal prison, the doctor flipped instantly, handing over all communications between himself, Jason, and Rachel. The arrest warrants for conspiracy and medical fraud were issued the following day. They cornered me a week later. I was exiting the courthouse after finalizing the restraining orders when I saw them. My parents and Rachel. They looked like ghosts. My mother's designer coat was rumpled, her hair unkempt. My father looked 10 years older, hollowed out by the realization that his wealth was gone. And Rachel, the prosthetic bump, was gone. She looked small, sickly, and terrified. "Nina." My mother threw herself at my feet before my security could intercept her. She grabbed my ankles, weeping hysterically. "Nina, please. The bank took the house. We have nowhere to go. Your father's heart can't take this." I looked down at her, feeling absolutely nothing. No pity, no sorrow. Just a cold, clinical observation of a stranger. "You should have thought of his heart before you sold out your eldest daughter," I said, stepping back, so her hand slipped off my shoes. Rachel stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, trembling like a leaf.
"Nina, I'm sorry."
"I'm so sorry. I was so jealous of you. You had everything. You had the brains, you had Jason. I just wanted a piece of what you had. Please, drop the charges. They're going to put me in jail, Nina. I'm your sister." "You ceased to be my sister the day you slept with my fiancé at my wedding," I replied smoothly. "I forgave you once because I was foolish enough to believe in family. You mistook my grace for weakness. Now you get to learn the difference." "You're a monster," my father suddenly roared, his face purple with rage. "We gave you life. You owe us. You ruined Jason. You ruined us, over a baby that wasn't even yours." I laughed. It was a loud, sharp sound that echoed off the marble pillars of the courthouse. "You're right, Dad." I smiled, my eyes completely dead. It wasn't my baby. It was an invasive tumor. And like any tumor, I excised it. As for Jason, he ruined himself. I just stopped doing his homework for him. I turned my back on them and walked toward my waiting car. "Nina," Rachel wailed, a sound of pure, unadulterated despair. "Please." I didn't look back. The criminal trial was swift. The evidence was insurmountable. Jason Law was sentenced to 8 years in a federal penitentiary for fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement, a fun little charge the SEC tacked on when they found out he had been illegally shifting funds to pay off Dr. Evans. When the judge read the verdict, Jason didn't even look up. He stared at his handcuffed wrists, a broken, hollow shell of the golden boy who had once manipulated me into trusting him. Rachel received 3 years. The judge was completely unsympathetic to her tears. The country club elites who used to fawn over her attended the sentencing just to gossip, treating her downfall as the social event of the season. My parents were left destitute. With their assets liquidated to pay back the fraudulent loans they took for the Ethel Farm investment, they were forced to move into a tiny, subsidized apartment on the outskirts of the city. I heard through the grapevine that my mother had taken a job as a cashier at a grocery store, while my father drank away whatever meager tips she brought home. I attended Jason's final divorce hearing via proxy. The judge granted me everything. Not that there was much left of Jason to take, but the principle remained. I was free. 2 years later, the clinking of crystal glasses and the low, sophisticated murmur of jazz filled the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. It was a gala for Lumina Capital, the hottest new venture capital firm in the country. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, swirling a glass of champagne. The reflection staring back at me was unrecognizable from the woman who had curled up in the dark, weeping on a couch 2 years ago. This woman wore a bespoke emerald gown, her posture impeccable, her eyes sharp and clear. "You're hiding," a voice said. I turned to see Anna approaching, holding 2 plates of hors d'oeuvres. She looked radiant, thriving in her role as my chief operating officer. "Just enjoying the view," I smiled, taking a tiny tart from her plate. "The merger with TechCorp went through?" "Signed, sealed, and delivered an hour ago," Anna beamed. "You just netted another cool 50 million, boss." I nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction settle in my chest. I had built Lumina Capital from the ashes of Vanguard. I didn't hide in the shadows anymore. I was the face, the brain, and the executioner. Wall Street knew exactly who Nina Gordon was, and they were terrified of me. "I got a letter today," I said softly, looking back out at the glittering city lights. Anna paused, her smile fading slightly. "From upstate." I nodded. "Jason. It's the 5th one this year. He says he's found God. Says he thinks about me every day, about the life we could have had if he hadn't been so blinded by pressure." Anna scoffed in disgust. "Throw it in the shredder with the rest of them." The audacity of that man. I didn't shred it, I murmured. I returned to sender. Wrote, "Not at this address," on the envelope. Anna laughed. "Cold. I love it." "It's not cold," I corrected gently. "It's just the truth." The woman he knew, the one who sacrificed her own light to make him shine, the one who tolerated abuse under the guise of family loyalty, she doesn't live here anymore. She died in that hospital room. A handsome man in a tailored tuxedo approached us, offering a polite, charming smile. It was Elias, a rival CEO who had been relentlessly, respectfully courting me for the better part of 6 months. He didn't want my money or my algorithms. He just liked my fire. "Ladies," Elias said smoothly. "Nina, they're asking for you on the floor. It's time for the founder's speech." I handed my empty champagne flute to a passing waiter. I looked at Anna, who gave me a firm, proud nod, and then at Elias, offering him a genuine, if guarded, smile. "Thank you, Elias. I'll be right there." I took a deep breath, smoothing the silk of my dress. The past was a rotting carcass, buried far beneath the earth. The future was unwritten, entirely mine to command. I turned my back on the window, stepped into the light, and walked forward to claim my empire.